The Bourne shell script programming language supports the notion of a function. If you're already a programmer, you may know functions by a different name. You may know them as subroutines or procedures, but whatever you call them, I'm going to show you how to use them in the shell programming language. Before I do that, I just want to have a brief word about program structure. When writing a substantial shell script, and I'm talking about a shell script more than just, say, 10 lines long, you'll find that it is actually necessary to partition your program up into various segments. And so it's safe to say that most shell scripts adhere to that same structure, which looks like this. You start off with the very first line being the interpreter specification, in other words, that hash, exclamation mark, and then the name of the program used to interpret the script. That's just one line. Then you typically have the opening comment. Of course, this is optional, but it's a good idea to have it there to specify what the script does and how to use it. Next, you would specify all your important variables. Let's say, for example, it was a backup program, and you might have a variable that determines where the backups are actually written to. Maybe you actually don't have such a variable, but it would be a good idea to create one even if you don't. Then you would put that variable, the setting of that variable to a particular value, right up at the top of the file, such that whenever anyone opens up the file and has a look in the script, it's immediately obvious how to go about changing some of the important functionality of the script, like in this case where the backups actually get written to. This again is optional, but it cuts down substantially on maintenance, and that's always a good thing. Next, you would put any functions that you have created, and of course functions are the subject of this chapter, so that's what we'll be learning about. So when you know how to create a function, you know where to put them. And finally, the main body of code. If you're just creating a little 10-line shell script or something similar, then number 5 there is probably the only part of the shell script that you'd actually be writing. But the aim of this course is to teach you how to write substantially large shell scripts, and I'm talking about shell scripts up to, say, 1,000 lines long. So I'll show you an example of what a shell script that adheres to this structure might look like. Let's do that on the next screen. Okay, so here's the script. We start off with the interpreter line. Then we have a very simple comment. Hopefully the comment would be a little bit more descriptive than that. Then we have two important variables. One is the variable that determines the directory that's going to get backed up, and the other one is where the backups are going to get put. And notice that the next thing is actually a function. Now I'm going to be describing this in depth in the next module, but for now the programmers amongst you might just take a little moment and have a look at the structure of the declaration of a function. Notice the use of the parentheses after the word backup1 file, notice the use of the braces, the curly brackets, and notice the use of the $1, which indicates the first parameter to the function. All of these will be explained in full in the next few modules, so don't worry if that code is meaningless to you at the moment. Finally, we have the main code block, which just simply runs through each file in the given directory, checks to see that the file actually has a non-zero size, and if it does, then it calls that particular function with that particular file, which will then of course copy it to the appropriate directory and echo the fact that it has been backed up. Now, in a really substantial program, we would have several variables being declared at the top. We would have several functions, and some of them would be quite long, and the main block of code will also probably be quite long as well. But they would still adhere to the same general structure, which you can see in front of you.